Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Exhorder, Defectum Omnium, out March 8th on Nuclear Blast. The album has 12 tracks, 54 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4 full-length studio album. They are an American thrash groove metal band. Now, when it comes to the design of this record, in my humble opinion, that is the soft spot of the album. It's really the only thing about this record that I wasn't a big fan of, because I think it took away from the overall experience. It's a record that sound-wise has different influences, so obviously those influences are going to have an impact in the individual songs, and then it's going to have an impact on the overall design, depending on how you place those songs. And I don't think they created an album that felt slightly cohesive, or that felt like it had a sense of purpose, that had a sense of direction. The album is very chaotic at times. You're not really sure if you're going forward or if you're going backwards. And overall, when you have 12 songs in 54 minutes, and you have that sort of difference or that sort of disparity between songs, it makes the experience even more chaotic. So I think if they had a record of 9 songs, 40 minutes, the album would have been a lot stronger across the collective. It would have been an album that would feel a little bit more together, with a better sense of direction and a better sense of purpose behind it. So it's an album that really lacks from the overall big picture standpoint. It has great individual songs, but they're not necessarily in the right order to give that same quality towards the collective. As far as the sound is concerned, I really enjoyed the sound on this album, and I thought it was really interesting that if you don't know where the band is from, you press play, you'll know it immediately. They have the very distinct New Orleans sound on this album. Think about bands like I Hate God or Down. This album has some of those sounds, some of those essence. The interesting thing about it is that the record, while having thrash and groove at its core as the main DNA of the overall sonic experience, is not just a thrash groove metal album through and through. There is other influences, like I said. There is sludge elements, there are doom elements, and this obviously gives more texture to the record. It creates bigger and better defined ebbs and flows throughout the album from song to song, and it makes the experience a little bit richer. But because they all have that same DNA, at least that same starting point of being sounds and experiences, even genres that at times were defined by bands from New Orleans, that's the glue that holds it all together. That's what makes these songs still feel like they belong together, that they belong on this record, because the overall essence of this album is a pure representation of where the band is from, not necessarily a pure representation of the genre of which flag they've been carrying for many years. And that to me was definitely a selling point of the album, and it made the experience of listening to these songs, to these 12 tracks, very interesting, because you're dissecting the songs individually and really trying to take the most out of them. Great sounding album with great production behind it. I enjoy tremendously the sound of the drums on this record, because it's a drum sound that, while being very thick, it creates movement. It has depth and movement within that depth. So that makes the drum sound a little bit more alive. It gives it more of a heartbeat. Super guitar focused, super guitar driven album. This is really a guitar centric record from beginning to end, regardless if the songs have a little bit more momentum, if they're more thrashier, if they're more groovier, if they have some hardcore elements, or if they are a little bit sludgier, a little bit doomier. The guitars are always in the forefront, they're always taking center stage, and they really represented themselves well throughout the entire record. Having that New Orleans DNA on the guitar sound, regardless of the influence, was definitely a winning formula for the album, and definitely a winning formula for the songs. The solos throughout this record always added value to the tracks. They added explosiveness to the songs. They allowed the songs to breathe a little bit better. They gave a little bit more of a classic vibe to the way the songs were coming across. I really enjoyed the solo work on this album. I thought it was, within the great guitar work, something that surpassed my expectations, and something that really stands out of that great overall guitar work that this album offers. Another thing that stands out is the bass. The bass pops on this record, not all the time, which I liked. I didn't want the bass to become a protagonist on this record, but it has its moments where it becomes a good supporting character. It becomes a good supporting character in the sound of songs, but in the overall experience of the record. I really enjoy the bass sound. It definitely stood out enough to be noticed, but not enough to really have a negative impact on the songs or on the sound. Vocally, powerful record. I like the mixing. I really enjoyed the mixing on the vocals, because when you have an album like this, specifically with the slower tracks, with the doomier or sludgier songs, it's very easy to fall prey to have those vocals a little bit deeper into the mix, a little more buried into the sound, to add to that overall vibe that those songs more often than not call for. It's not the case here. Consistently, the vocals really come across well. They jump off the tracks. They're powerful. Great range, really powerful range. There were some notes that were hit on this record that I wasn't expecting to hear on an album like this. So I was surprised, but I really welcomed that surprise on how good the overall vocal performance was, how consistently good that performance was from start to finish. Now, overall, like I said, I wasn't a fan of the design. Now, you can say that, well, you like the diversity of the sound, you like all of the different influences, and you even said that the New Orleans DNA kind of was the glue that held it all together. So what are you talking about the design? Well, I like that dynamic, and I like that sound, and I like that fingerprint that the record had, but the album at times just really overextended itself, and it didn't really allow me to feel like I was always moving forward with it, that we had a goal in mind, and a common goal in mind, and we were both working towards it. It's an album because of its duration, and some of the DNA of individual songs within the record allows you to disconnect from the experience. It doesn't give you a pause, it completely disconnects. So I don't feel like this record, design-wise, is able to showcase the quality of the sound and the quality of the execution of the album. It creates this paradigm where you can find really interesting songs, you can find really great tracks. It's an album that has a lot of great elements overall and individually in terms of the sound experience and the vocals behind that same sound experience, but then when you try to sit down and listen to the album from beginning to end, it becomes quite cumbersome, and that obviously takes away from the record in general. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Wrath of Prophecies. This is the opening track, and it's an absolute ripper. Heavy, groovy, driven, great guitar sound, and the drums really complement that guitar sound well. The chorus slows down the track, and the vocals come in with a lot of depth in that chorus. The verses are always straightforward, very ripping, like the guitars really have a sense of purpose, like they're not just treading water, they have where to go. And then that slowdown of the chorus creates the ebbs and flows within the song. It has a great solo. It's a track that really lives off of the grooviness and heaviness and thrashiness that it has from the guitars, with the matching intensity vocally behind it. Next we have Divide and Conquer. This is a super driven song and a super guitar centric song, but it's also the shortest song on the album. And when you have a song that's really short, like under 3 minutes, and you have guitars that are very driven, it feels like the song is even shorter. It feels like you're moving a lot quicker through the track. So you're still able to digest the straightforwardness of the thrash riffing sound that the song provides. The vocals sound great within that sound, and then the chorus has a lot of layers as far as the vocals are concerned, which allows the song to feel connected between the parts, because those layers within the vocals create volume. So it allows the volume of the chorus to kind of match the heaviness of the verses. Even though you're getting two different, slightly different experiences, they feel very connected because of how one adds volume where the other one lacks, and vice versa. Really interesting song from that perspective. The shortness of the song allows the song to be even more impactful. Then last but not least, Your Six. This is the closing song on the album, and let me just say this is a doomier, sludgier song all around. It just moves really slow, it's very methodic. The bass pops, and I think that methodic nature of the track really allows the bass to pop and to have an immediate impact on that methodic experience and that methodic sound. I love the way this song moves because the vocals move with it. It becomes a little bit more emotional, I would say, because of the nature of the sound, the nature of the experience. The guitars are still impactful, the guitars are still the driving force, but now they're moving in slow motion. So it's a very, like I said, methodic song in terms of how it goes. But the vocals stand out. They still have this predominant role throughout, and still a very dominant song guitar-wise. That just gives you a different experience. It just has a different DNA. But I really enjoy the methodology of this song and how slow and paceful this track is, considering how you start the album with Wrath of Prophecies, which is a very ripping song. You're closing the album on a very opposite note of that. So it's a great track, but I don't honestly feel like this song gets the credit, or will get the credit that it's due, because it's the last track on the album. This song needed to be a little bit more upper in the overall track listing, so that it could get its dues. It's a great track. It's a great song. It has the right energy. It has that methodic energy to it. I just love the doominess of it and the sludginess that it offers. This is it. Exhorder with Defectum Omnium, out March 8th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section, and I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.